All right. Yay. Hello again, Facebook world. It's been a little bit. I am so excited to be back with Huntsville native and fantasy family, Willem Butler. Very excited to have Willem on because we try and get a wide range, Willem, of people for our guests. And I've wanted somebody who was in university at college right now for some of our younger guests to kind of answer some questions. You've kind of had an exciting adventure this summer. You've got lots going on. So I'm just going to let Willem tell you a little bit about himself. And then as people sign on, we'll get those questions going. All right, go ahead.
Hello, I'm Willem. I've been doing theater since I was 4 and I'm 20 now. So like 16, 17 years. Do math, fast math. I'm going to Elon University for music theater. When I was in Huntsville, I went to the Academy for Academics and Arts for K through 8, and then I went to Grissom High School for high school.
Lots of theater. So I was talking lots of theater. I was talking to Willem before we got on and went live, and I was scrolling through all these pictures. I had no idea that you had done so much. I've seen you in a few things. I know Hunchback was one of the last shows you did before you left town, right? I think that was the last thing.
Yes.
The last thing I saw you in. So I saw you in Hunchback, but you, like you said, you've been doing shows since you were 4. How did you get into theater? How did you get into that?
When I was, I guess 4, my brothers, we just moved here from Virginia, and Fantasy reached out to my family and told them about what they were and like what they did. And my parents were really interested in it. So they put one of my brothers in it, and just going and seeing him in shows. And then my other brothers joined it, and seeing them in shows really made me want to do it too. And then once I started doing it, it was just like, that was all I ever wanted to do.
That's awesome. That's funny. That's pretty similar story to me.
Oh yeah.
Whole family got involved, and then I was last in, and there we go. It sucks you in.
It's a great way to get into it.
It is. It works. And I know your family was very involved. Your mom is still involved, and I love that. Is the rest of your family still pretty involved or do theater or anything like your brothers or anything?
I have one brother who just got his master's degree in lighting from NYU, but then the rest have kind of just gone on different paths. One of them worked for ESPN, did a lot of camera stuff for them. One of them's an engineer. One of them works for a paint company. So it's like they're spread to the winds.
Yeah, all the fun stories though. That sounds like really fun. So do you have, I know we're going to get asked this, so we'll go ahead. Do you have a favorite show that you've been in so far in all these shows?
Yeah. Well, actually, so my favorite musical in the entire world is Hunchback of Notre Dame. And so when we did it my summer of senior year, it was just the best experience. It was like, I was kind of worried because I really wanted it to be like a great show and like all this other stuff. And I didn't know what it was going to turn out like, because it was a huge show in my mind. But then when we started rehearsing, it was just like, oh, she knows exactly what she wants. She knows what she wants it to look like. And it turned out looking exactly what she wanted. And it was so much, the people in the cast were incredible. It was one of the best theater experiences I've ever had.
So magical. Well, I know that that was right shortly after we had moved back, probably a year or so, but I took my daughter, who was almost 4 to that, not even 4, but she was almost 4. And she sat through almost the whole thing before falling asleep. That's how I know it was good, because she just loved it.
Oh, thank goodness.
Yeah, no, it was so good. It was magical. So I'm very fortunate to have seen that. So you're going into your sophomore year, correct? Yeah, sophomore year?
Yeah. No, I'm going to my junior year. Sorry.
Junior, I was about to say, junior year. Oh my gosh, time flies. Oh, do feel old now. So junior year, 2 years under your belt. What is something that you can tell students or somebody who's about to enter into the college world who wants to do musical theater? What is a piece of advice that you might give them?
Really pace yourself, because once you go from doing community theater shows and doing theater in high school to majoring in it, it's a whole different world in that you're using your performing skills every single day for up to 8 hours a day. So it's dance classes, it's acting classes, it's singing classes, and they're all one right after another. And you go to bed that night and you wake up and you have to do it all over again. And so freshman year, it was just I didn't know how to pace myself really in that. I wanted to go full out every single time, in every single class, no matter how I felt from the day before, or at the end of the week. And it really burnt me out in the beginning of the towards the end of the second semester. But then I feel like I kind of got it under control sophomore year, and now I'm really starting to get it under control. And I think that's probably the biggest thing I've learned from going to college for music theater is really how to pace yourself and how to get up enough stamina to perform these things, you know, every single day, which is what we're going to be doing in the professional world.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's a good piece of advice. What if you follow that idea? If you could go back and tell high school Willem a piece of advice, like what would it be? If you could talk to your high school self.
Oh gosh, if I could talk to my high school self, it would be to, I don't know. I had a great high school experience. I think it would be to not worry so much about where you're going to go, because you're going to end up where you need to go. Because originally I really wanted to go to Michigan. Michigan was like, I was like, that's it. That's the only thing I need to work towards. I need to work towards Michigan. And so I went and auditioned for Michigan, and I had an awful audition experience. I blew it. I completely blew it. But then, so I got really worried about that. And I was like, wow, I need to start looking at other schools now. But I didn't do that until kind of after I had really blown that audition. And so I got very lucky. I auditioned for Carnegie, Alabama, and Elon, and I got accepted into Alabama and Elon.
Awesome. Well, that's amazing. See, you just never know. Well, that's awesome. What was your audition like? How can high schoolers prep now for that whole process going into college? Since you say you bombed it, like what did you learn from that?
What I learned from it was, don't try to pick your hardest stuff, and make sure you practice as much as possible. Like the songs that you choose to do in these auditions, you need to know off the back of your hand. You need to know how to do them in any situation possible, because sometimes you're going to be in a hotel room and you're going to have to perform like you're on front of like 1,000 people. Or sometimes you're going to be in a cafeteria for 3 people in front of you, and you have to do the same thing. You have to be able to perform it anywhere and everywhere at any time. So if you choose something that's way too out of your range or too high, you're not going to be able to do that if you haven't warmed up, or if you have like a 9 a.m. audition and you haven't warmed up, and you wake up at 8 and then you have to go sing this song where you're hitting A's, B's, and C's. It's like you can't do that. So you have to have a backup. You have to have a book full of songs that you can pull out of anywhere. And then I would also say really research the Unifieds process and research what these schools are looking for. Unifieds is a great place where a bunch of music theater schools come to one place, and you can audition for multiple at one time. I only auditioned for Carnegie in Michigan, but most people do about 17 to 20, and it's a crazy experience. But then for Elon, you have to go to Elon to audition. So that's one of Elon's things, is that you have to go to their campus and audition for them personally.
Interesting. That's a good idea. Yeah, I know one of our other AMA guests had said something similar about, don't necessarily try and knock their socks off. Just make sure it's something you're comfortable with, and they know what they're looking for. So yeah. That's perfect. Oh, your mom, 10,000 hours, mom says. Mom, you do good work. We love our moms, don't we? All the support, all the things. So while you were telling that, I was able to pop up and look at that. There we go. There he is in Hunchback.
That's one of my favorite photos.
So good. It's so good by the talented. I think Jeff White took those, right? Yeah, probably.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, that was a beautiful show. I loved that. I was trying to find your first fantasy show. I know we were talking about that, and but I couldn't find A Christmas Carol. Our little Tiny Tim, one of our Tiny Tims.
Oh.
But we did find. Oh, I think some people have seen this, but there's that Peter Pan.
Yeah,
so cute. Look at him.
Yeah, that was a crazy show. I love that show. That was probably also one of the best theater experiences I've ever had, was doing Peter Pan. Because Peter Pan has so much history behind it, and the cast for everything, and the directorial staff for that entire show was amazing.
That's one of those shows that I love. I don't know, it's just a favorite for me. Like every interpretation I love all the different, I love everything about Peter Pan and Tinkerbell, which we are probably doing in the spring. Just a little plug there, FYI. So upcoming school year, there's a lot going on. Have you heard anything like how that's going to work, or voice lessons, dance classes? Those are a little tough for social distancing.
We're trying to figure it out. As of right now, we all have to get tested for COVID-19, make sure that we're good before we come back to campus, and then we quarantine for 2 weeks before we start classes. And as of right now, we're trying to do some classes. I think it's going to be a hybrid of both digital and in-person classes, depending on where the U.S. is and where North Carolina is regarding the COVID-19 situation at that time. We're gonna go by that. But hopefully everyone stays smart. Hopefully everyone wears masks, and it'll be good enough so that we can do in-person classes.
We'll be back. It's just intermission. That's what we keep saying, right?
Exactly.
All right. So Ellie asks, for the young male vocalist, how did you deal with your teen years and your voice changing? Well, that's a good question.
Ooh, my voice changed right about 7th grade and 8th grade, and it was probably the toughest like vocal time from kindergarten to high school. Because once I got to high school, I kind of knew what was happening with it. I knew how to work with it. But 7th grade specifically, I knew going from doing honk, where I was the cat and singing, pretty high stuff, and then going to playing the cat again for Sue School the Musical, and then realizing that I couldn't hit what I usually could hit. It was terrifying. But one of the things that people, Deborah Fleischman specifically, kept telling me, she was like, it's going to be fine. Like, you're going to be fine. You're going to learn how to work it. Vivian Atkins also gave some great advice. She was like, it's going to turn into what you are going to be through the rest of your life. You were so used to singing in this upper register and how you sang before that now it's just something new you have to learn. And the thing is, it didn't only stop there. It was when I got to college too that I started realizing that my voice was still changing and still figuring out what it was going to do and how to sing consistently and singing healthily with more training. So it has to do with training and then just trusting that your voice is going to get where it needs to go.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Broadway World, we'll just go ahead and throw that out there. What a crazy ride. For anybody who has no idea what we're talking about, tell them a little bit about what this Broadway World Next on Stage was.
Yeah, so Broadway World started a competition towards the beginning of quarantine, just so that students had a way to express themselves through theater while they were stuck at home. And we started out, I think there were about 1,600 applicants at the very beginning, all just sending in songs and then kind of just going out and being like, please vote for me so I get in the top 25. And the grand prize winner gets $1,000 to a charity of their choice, 10 Broadway record CDs, a voice lesson with Matt Farnsworth, a single where all the proceeds go to the Actors Fund, and a masterclass with a casting director about auditions, specifically about auditions. So yeah, it was just something fun to do during the quarantine that I initially started out. I was just like, yeah, I might as well do it, throw my name in the ring. And then it just kept getting more and more better, I guess. I don't know. It just kept going, and I wasn't expecting it to keep going.
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. I know it kind of blew up, and it was amazing to watch, especially, and it was amazing to watch your progress, but also like everybody else's, because I went back to watch some of the other people who made it, and watching the progress was, I mean, what a cool opportunity for young people in general. I just love that. How did you hear about that? Did you just were you following Broadway World and you saw when they announced, or did your teachers tell you, or?
No, it was just, I saw when it announced. It was, I follow all the pretty big, Broadway vlogs or whatever. And so it was Broadway World, Playbill. Now Playbill's doing one. So if you want to do the Playbill's having another competition that you can enter if you'd like to.
Amazing. Wow. So do you know when, like, for example, your voice lesson that you're going to be having, do you know when that will be, or has that already happened?
It hasn't happened yet. So they're gonna send me a recording kit. So they're composing a song for me to do for the single. And I talked with the producer the other day about it, and we chose one, which I'm not gonna tell you, but when it comes out, you'll see what it is. But it's a little different variation of the song that I've already done. And they'll send me a recording kit, and then right before I do the recording of that single, they're gonna have a voice lesson with me over Zoom.
Amazing. That's really cool. And it took me, I didn't even realize until I think the last week that there was a high school competition going on too, until they were down to the wire. And I was like, this is just a really neat opportunity for young people. So great.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool. And I know that in your spare time, you've gotten really good at editing videos and things like that. So did you take a class in that at university, or did you just dabble in it and teach yourself?
I've been doing videography and photography since about 7th grade. So I've just been accumulating different skills within that, and accumulating different gear. And so this was like the culmination of everything I've learned up to this point. And I'm like, oh, this is the perfect opportunity to use it.
It all comes together.
Oh yeah.
That's amazing. So do you have a favorite app or software or anything that you like? What do you use for your video editing?
Yeah, so I record on a 6D Mark II with a Canon 50mm 1.2 L series lens, and then I have a softbox, and then a mic, just a random condenser mic hooked up to a soundboard. But then when I edit it, I bring it into Adobe Premiere Pro, and I clean up the audio a little bit with Adobe Audition.
That's awesome. Very cool. Chris Carter says, hi, Willem. Thanks for sharing your gifts with us. Do you have any unique or silly routines or rituals that you like to do before you perform?
Yeah. So at Elon, before we do every performance, we have a just this weird ritual. I don't even know where it started, where we all get in a circle and we all talk about the show and get ready mentally for the show. But then afterwards, we all do a clap up, and then we shoot it, and then we go off and do the show, which is fun. And then I don't really have any vocal warm-ups that I do every single time. It's kind of just on a need basis. Yeah. But yeah, that's probably the silliest one that we do.
That's really funny. Shoot for the goal. What is the hardest role you've played? Would that be in Hunchback as well, you think?
Ooh, the hardest role I've played. Honestly, I think the hardest role that I might have played was Frank Jr. in Catch Me If You Can this past summer when I was in Big Fork, Montana. Mainly just not even just due to the vocally demanding role. He goes up to B flats and A's throughout the entire show. I think he goes up to a C at one point. But along with that, we were doing 3 other shows at the same time. So every night we would switch out shows. And so one night I would be in the headspace of Frank Jr. and I'd be like, okay, I'm this cool guy just slipping through life and like all this other stuff. But then the next day I'd be in Oklahoma and I'd have to be a cowboy, and I'd have to completely switch it and switch the entire script. So I had 4 scripts going on in my head at one time, and I would just have to switch over to the next saved file and go into that show.
Oh my gosh, that is just incredible. I remember talking to your mom that summer at the theater, and she was saying you were just learning so much and having a time of your life. And have you done summer shows in between each of your freshman to sophomore to junior? Well, I guess not this summer. Where were you supposed to be this week?
I was supposed to be in Disney. I was supposed to be in Disney. I was supposed to be a parade performer at Disney for all of summer going into the fall semester. So I was supposed to be their fall advantage going into fall, and it got canceled.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Wow.
But if I had gone to that, I wouldn't have done the Broadway World competition. So it's a diamond in the rough.
Yeah, all those doors. Man, that's cool. I was actually working down at Disney the weekend it shut down, and it was the craziest experience. Everybody's like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay? What's happening?"
Right.
Disney is shutting. It's insane. So
I had a friend who was working there, and he was like, Disney told him that they'd be back in 2 weeks. So he was like, "Oh, this is nothing." And then 2 weeks passed, and they were like, "Hey, actually, you're not coming back."
That's not happening. Oh man, it's tough. It's tough out there for performers, especially right now, and nonprofits and theaters. And I mean, that's kind of why we're doing this Ask Me Anything series, and
right,
keep people entertained and doing things. But I know it's going to be a tough road with Broadway being shut till at least January. That's hard. So this is a good reminder for everybody to just keep in mind, you're going to want those arts now and then. So keep it up. Let's see. I need that. Oh, Renee's trying to attach some pictures of Christmas Carol. Sorry. We're going to get them. We'll find them. That's awesome. We got to see, Karen says she got to see a sneak peek of your Rocket City's Got Talent performance, and we can't wait. So
yeah, that was really fun. Maddie and I filmed it earlier in the quarantine. And we had a lot of fun doing that. It was a lot of hot days. We were sweating, and it's this big dance number. So.
I've seen a handful of the performances, but I'm trying to, I want to be surprised the night of too. But
of course.
All of the videos I've watched, I've already cried. So it's fine. It's no big deal. But yeah, so if you haven't heard, Rocket City's Got Talent is Fantasy's annual fundraiser, and it's taking a little bit of a turn this year because we're going virtual. Obviously can't be in person. So we have a lot of fantasy family, past and presents like Willem and Matt Meggs and all these other incredibly talented people who are going to be joining us for that event. So that's going to be awesome. So if you want to hear Willem sing again, that's hopefully our next. That's where you get to hear him. Let me just plug while we're on here. So Karen asked, I think you mentioned this. When did you start doing videography? 7th grade?
Yeah, I started doing it in 7th grade. I kind of got into it, and I went to this video camp with Hollywood Huntsville. And I met a guy named Philip Spratt, who he was like, do you want to join this production company I'm starting? And I was like, yeah. And so I did that for about 2 years. And then I kind of left that once I got into high school, and I had a car and I could go out and start doing my own jobs and stuff. I started doing senior pictures a lot. A lot of the video work that I was doing was kind of just stuff that I wanted to do, short films and music videos that I wanted to put up. But then once people started asking me to film shows, I was like, I can actually like do this on the side and make a little bit of money off of it and still be related to theater. And so now that I'm in Elon, I film all their shows. I film all the senior cabarets. I film everyone's, senior showcases. I do all the headshots, which is fun. But it's a nice little side gig along with theater. So as long as, theater's amazing, and I love doing theater. But having that nice little side situation is also really nice for groceries and rent and all that.
Well, yeah, and it's a tough life that you choose. It's fantastic and ever changing and an adventure, but it's tough. So yeah, that's a great idea to. You never know. It's always good to have a side thing, like you said. I found it. I got it. Here it is.
Oh,
there it is.
Man.
Thank you, Renee.
Oh, wow.
I love the internet.
I look the exact
so
same.
Fast. Oh my God. I haven't changed at all. 2008. That's amazing.
Wow.
So good. That'll take you back. I'm not even going to talk about where I was in 2008. Seems like so long ago. I'm not playing that game.
Wow.
Yeah, it was so good. So, all right. Marianne says you would be an amazing Christian in Moulin Rouge. Yes. What role would you love to do next if given the opportunity?
I would love to do, either anything in Evan Hansen. Any role in Evan Hansen would be incredible. But also Christian in Moulin Rouge. Everyone keeps telling me that. I think like 4 or 5 months ago. Yeah, I got someone text me. They were like, "You'd be perfect for this role," and so I went and listened to it. I'd seen the movie, but Aaron Tveit singing it is just so good.
So different. So good. Oh my gosh. We were hoping to make a trip up this fall so I could see it, but that's not happening, obviously. So maybe. Yeah, that's all right. Ellie said, what is a mishap on stage that you had to deal with or react to improvise?
So this past summer when I was in Oklahoma, there was, going with 4 shows in your head at one time, it's hard to keep it all in there. So earlier on in the runs, there was a moment after the auction that I'm supposed to run on stage. Everyone as a big whole group, the entire ensemble is running on stage after this really intense scene between Judd and someone else. But it's a really intense scene, and they're talking about death, and like the audience is on the edge of their seat. And so I'm waiting to hear my cue line to run on stage, like hooping and hollering with the rest of the ensemble. And I hear it, and I run on stage, and I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, and I look behind me, and no one's there. It was just me screaming at the top of my lungs in the middle of this really intense scene, and I kind of look around and I run right back off stage, and my best friend at Big Fork was laughing so hard. She was like, "Willem, you missed it. That was not our line." And I turn around, and then they say my line. And so I think there's a video somewhere of me just randomly in the middle of a scene screaming and hooping and hollering as I come in the middle of the scene.
Well, don't worry. That'll come out when you're famous later.
How exciting.
That'll be perfect. That's amazing. I think one of my favorite fantasy moments for me was one of my cast members went on with fuzzy Scooby-Doo slippers.
Oh, goodness. And
while we were reveling about that, we realized I had these like bright blue bracelets. Yeah, we were a mess. We were like, oh, those are the best
times.
Yeah, you know, it happens. It's fine. It happens to everybody. Marianne, hi Marianne. She wants to know, what role have you done that you would love to revisit? Clearly not Seussical, since you've done that 5 times.
Oh, I love Seussical. I would go back and do Seussical in a heartbeat. Yeah. I love everything about it. I think it's one of the best children's theater shows in the entire world. I think it's perfectly written. Let's see. Something that I'd like to revisit. I really want to do a big professional production of Hunchback. But I know I keep coming back to Hunchback, but something else that I would love to revisit probably would be, oh goodness. Probably I would want to do Catch Me Again. I would want to kind of do probably Catch Me Again and see if I could do it any different or any better.
Man, ooh, that's a good musical. That's fun.
Oh yeah.
Marianne also says, I love that you give kudos to your brothers for your love of theater, but you must expand. Also, what is your 4 brothers' nicknames for you? Any brotherly nicknames we should know?
No. I think my mom calls me Willoughby or W, which one of my friends has started calling me W because my mom has started calling me W, or has called me W, forever. But I don't think my brothers ever. Okay, there is, because we used to have songs for each one of our brothers, kind of, and so like Reese was Reese-arella, like the Cinderella, night and day, Cinderella, and then Tate was the wonderful thing about taters, or taters are a wonderful thing, so Tigger. And then for me it was Willem the Pooh. The Winnie the Pooh song. So that's it.
What a musical family.
Yeah, right.
That's amazing. That's so good. Let's see. Oh, your mom sent pictures. Stay tuned.
Oh boy.
We'll see what
Oh boy.
Thanks, Mom. Hopefully they came. They're not. I don't have them yet. Let's see. What else? What do you got? Did you do just back-to-back shows in high school?
I did. And a lot of the time, because once I was in middle school, Grissom needed more boys to be in their show. And since most of my brothers were already there, Miss Brawley was just like, well, let's go ahead and bring him in for, something, so that his mom doesn't have to keep going back and forth between home and this. So I got to be in a lot of their shows. So if I was ever doing a show at AAA, I would do that show for part of the year, and then I would go do Grissom's show the next year. So I go straight from AAA right to Grissom and start doing their show. And then at some points, especially in elementary school, I would go from doing AAA shows straight to doing fantasy shows or community shows.
All the shows.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome. That's a good way to do it, though. So I'm still trying to. I'm gonna find this picture.
Find the funny pictures. I think the only time that I've ever, going back to the messed up question, I was trying to remember times that I've messed up on stage. And I think one of the scariest times that I ever messed up was when I was 6 and I was Tiny Tim in A Christmas Carol. And this is the first time that I had ever messed up on stage. It was terrifying as a 6-year-old. I forgot one of my lines where I was supposed to face the audience and say it out to the thing. And right as I turned, I just blanked. And I could feel my face getting hot. I was about to cry because I was like, I have no idea what this is. Oh, no. And PJ Sliding came in and he saved me. He saved me, and I forever will remember that moment. I don't even know if he remembers it, but that was the very first time I ever messed up on stage. I was terrified.
Oh, bless it. Oh man, that's so. Do you ever have the dreams? Oh man, I know those are some of the worst nightmares I have where you're like, it's opening night and you just forget everything. Like everything's just gone.
Oh yeah. Or they call
It's
you in
horrible.
and like you've never been to any of the rehearsals, so you don't know
Yeah.
anything, and you're like,
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know any lines. So you improvise everything. It's terrifying.
Oh, boy. Yeah, that's the worst. That's the worst. I don't hardly even perform anymore. I still have those dreams. It's really terrifying. What
They stick with you.
how do you get rid of yeah, how do you get rid of your jitters? Do you still get that stage fright? How did you get over that?
So luckily, if I have a good enough rehearsal experience and a good enough rehearsal process, then I don't get the jitters because it's just like being in rehearsal. The only time that I get jitters is if I don't have enough rehearsal, and that's one of the biggest things. Is especially when you get more into the university setting of it and the summer stock version of it. I had about 2 weeks to learn an entire show while I was performing another show that night. So in the morning we get up at 8. We go to rehearsal at 9. We'd stay till about 6. We'd have maybe 30 minutes for dinner. We'd go from dinner to call for the show, and then we do the show at 7. And then after that, we would go home, we'd sleep, and we do it all the next day. So that rehearsal process, it's like if you're doing it for every single hour of the day, it's better. But I can't imagine having those rehearsals be any shorter than they were in the short time that I had.
Whew. Yeah, man. When do you know? Like, can you pinpoint, because you've been doing this for so long, when you actually wanted to make a career out of it? When you decided, like, yeah, I think this is it.
Someone asked me that in another
always
interview, and it's always, ever since I was 5, I was like, oh, this is the best. I was like, there's no other feeling like this. So I just never. It was, and my family, like my family has always been liked anything else, and so they put me in sports, they put me in STEM classes, they put me in all this other stuff, and it was just nothing was like being on stage and acting or performing, and so the support that I got from everyone in community theater and school was incredible, and it just kept making me want to do more and more and more.
Yeah. Well, that's the best part. I mean, we say fantasy family and theater family, but it's just you become family when you work together like that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Willem, I want to know your favorite costume you've worn on stage. Oh, that's a fun one.
So I think the one that I looked the best in, and I really liked it because I looked good in it, was probably when I was in Sweeney, and I was a street sweep. I had these like really high-waisted pants with like these suspenders and like a rolled up button up with a top hat. It was great, and I got to be dirty, and like I was an ensemble character, so I could do anything I wanted. It was like I had to stay in character the entire time, but I could do pretty much anything I wanted in character. And then probably the funniest costume that I've ever worn, thinking back to it, that I still love and like it sticks in my head just because it was the funniest, was definitely when I was in Beauty and the Beast at Fantasy, and I was the clock with the bell head, but it was like, it originally was a chocolate chip cookie, and they cut out a piece of plywood and stuck numbers on it and then stuck it in the chocolate chip cookie.
Hey,
and one time I remember falling over face first on stage, and I couldn't get up because it was plywood, so I couldn't like roll to get myself up. So someone had to pull me up from the back, and the entire clock face fell out, and I had to hold it as I was running on stage.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh. we go with the flow. So I was about to say, it's too bad because I have another Beauty and the Beast picture. I think this is the one from Grissom when you were the Beast.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How about that? I have that picture right here too. Look at that. Look at that itty bitty. It's so little.
The thing about that one is that we had this great prosthetic. I love this prosthetic that we had because it was in 2 pieces. It was a face piece, and then it was a chin piece. And it moved with my face, and so I could sing and I could articulate, and it was great. But the only problem was afterwards, when I transformed and I was tearing it off as I was flipping upside down in the air, it was held on with spirit glue, and it was so fragile that pieces of the foam would be left on my face. And so where my makeup was, it was all orange up here, And then down below, it was my pale skin with these splotches of orange, and so it was disgusting afterwards. Like no one. And then Janie had to kiss me on stage, and so I can't even imagine her kissing me with that on.
You're like, you look great. That's
not
amazing.
at all. They were like, "Oh, he's so beautiful," and I was like, "Not at all."
You're so nice. That looks great. Awesome. Mary Becker, yay, hi. If you had to rank singing, dancing, and acting in order, which is the most fulfilling to you?
So for me, I love all three. I'm not the best dancer. A lot of people consider me a dancer, but I don't consider myself a dancer in the least. There is so much more work that I need to do for that. I love dancing, but it scares me every time I have to do something like really dancey, except if it's partnering or lifting. I love partnering and lifting. But between singing and acting, I think singing, if you're just singing and you have no expression on your face and you're not acting it as well, it's so unfulfilling. So I think if I could combine singing and acting, that's definitely the most fulfilling to me. Because singing, it's when you can't, singing, you have to sing when you can't get what you want to express through words. And so it's the perfect culmination of the composer, the writer, the lyricist, you know, it's all in this one thing. And especially at certain points of shows where it's just like, this is, it's like in Newsies, when they're doing the duet between Catherine and Jeremy Jordan, it's gorgeous. I love that. Or when he's singing Santa Fe, it's just like, he has to get this out. And so he has to act and sing at the same time. So I think that's the number one thing for me.
Yeah. At school, do you take all types of dancing? Like how many dance classes do they even do?
We're required to take one of each type of dance. And I think hopefully they add, right now we don't have to take certain types of dance, like hip hop or African, but hopefully that switches soon, because there's a big movement within the universities of a lot of this is based in Eurocentrism, and so like ballet was centered in that, not jazz. Ballet was mainly centered. Ballet is like the number one thing we have to take, is centered in that, and so we're trying to move away from people having to take only Euro-centric dance classes, which is great, and a lot of us are very encouraged to take the African dance classes and the hip hop dance classes. But we do have to take one of each style on this list of things. So far, I've taken 3 years of ballet, so I feel a little bit better at ballet, but I'm not where I need to be. And then I can't tap at all. Tap is the worst. I can't do it. Watching tap, I love it. If they tap around me, I'm fine, but I cannot tap myself.
Oh my gosh, I'm so obsessed with tap. I took an adult tap class. I hadn't danced in years, and I took one when we moved to Memphis. Back in 2009, 2010, I took one. And it was so much fun. I was terrible. It was amazing. So
I had tap shoes for literally 3 semesters, never took them out of my closet because I was so scared of them. I was like, didn't want to touch them. So wait, do you tap? Do you tap?
Yeah, down my hall.
Oh, more than I do. So
no, down my hall. Well, I can still shuffle really well. So. No, I'm hoping that we get some more like adult classes, dance classes specifically around here, because I would do. I know there's a lot of people that would take. Marianne, hello, I see you on. I'm talking to you guys.
there's a bunch of great dance teachers that would love to do it too. So that's
we have so many talented dancers here in town. So get those adult classes. I'll come when it's safe. I promise. All right. Well, I told you this would go so fast. We're almost at 40 minutes, so we will wrap it up. This has been so great, and we just look forward. Huntsville's proud of you. The theater family across the community is so proud of you. Just keep up the good work, and we can't wait to see what happens next. Hopefully.
Thank you so much for all of the support.
Yeah, keep it coming, and we'll talk to you some more soon, I guess.
Absolutely. Sounds good to me. Thank you.
Bye, Willem.
Bye.